Here we are then, Ocean BMW down in Falmouth. I'm having brake pads fitted on my bike, and they've given me the 2018 GS Adventure with a TFT screen to have a ride out on for a little bit. So I'm going to take it for a ride. Look at that, 2018, it's a 2018 bike, only just been registered. So we'll get on and we'll see how we get on. So it's got the wonderful TFT screen on it. It's very special, that is. It's got the rev counter, got the gears, clock, temperature, speed in the middle. Little flashing light there is the brake indicator, which goes off after 5 meters. So I'm just going to take it for a quick ride, and then we'll see how we get on. I'm expecting it to be very similar to the to my own bike. So I'm sure it is exactly the same. The changes have been done to the engine, really, not the not so much to the body of the bike. So everyone's raving about TFT screens, and BMW are a little bit behind the curve when they brought their bike out originally. My bike is only a 2016 plate and didn't have the TFT screen on it, whereas KTM had theirs already fitted on a 2016 bikes, I think. Certainly on their 2017 bikes, which is a bit of a disappointment, really. So, but I must admit that this screen is pretty cool. The standard size GS, it's not lowered or anything like that, so it's a standard configuration, which is pretty much the same as all the other GS Adventures we've ridden. Feels exactly the same. Unfortunately for me, it's got the Anarchy 3 tyres, which I like to call the Panicky 3 tyres, which I find really, really horrible in the wet. So thank God it's dry, or whoever your religious persuasion might be. The paint scheme on this looks really sexy, though, I must admit. It's the blue and white, and does look pretty nice. Yesterday down in Cornwall, the weather was absolutely horrendous. In fact, I was so wet I was wetter than an otter's pocket. But today, nice and sunny weather. Roads are drying out, although the back roads are pretty horrendous with rubbish that's come off the fields and things, so still got to take it pretty cool. Everything else seems exactly the same. There doesn't seem anything different about the bike. The screen, it's fitted for, but not with the GPS, which I would imagine would be the Navigator 6, which is the flat screen one. Sounds lovely, though. You know, when you have those days when you go out for a ride and you go, everything sounds so much nicer today, I don't know why, and I've realised the engine sounds great because I've only got one earplug in. I was talking to a guy who was really interested in buying this down at Ocean Falmouth before before I set off, and I had to take one of my earplugs out, and as a result of that I forgot to put it back in. So, but the engine does sound nice, and it's interesting to walk. We're going through a bit of a shopping area here in Falmouth, and you can see how many people turn and actually look at the bike. These bikes are definitely head turners, without the massively loud exhaust, aftermarket exhaust that people buy. They are head turners, and they look really sexy, and they always have done, I think. BMWs are well known for having, I suppose, a street presence. Certainly they're quite an imposing bike. The guy who was looking at this before I got on it was saying, you know, he'd never ridden a GS, which is actually going to take one out now and have a ride on it, which is pretty cool. People slag them off like we always say, but they've never ridden them, a lot of people. But once they have ridden them, they go, oh yeah, I understand that now. But he was saying that he thought the bike looks absolutely massive, and it does look big, it really does. And once you're riding it, it doesn't seem to be anything out the ordinary. It's very, very well balanced, as you would imagine. It is a nice bike to ride, but they do have a very big road presence. There's no way people can miss you. Although we always have people who do miss us. So this 2018 bike has got the Quick Shift Pro on it, which the first time I tried it on a 16 plate bike was pretty ropey actually. You couldn't use it for the first 3 gears realistically. You had to use the clutch going up. Coming down was no problem, just pop the pedal in, it would drop straight in, but it was a little bit agricultural on the way up. And then when I got my 66 plate bike, which is, it was only 6 months older, they made some adjustments and the quick shift was absolutely unbelievable. It was really buttery smooth, and now you can use it up and down without any issues at all. And it is a pleasure to ride. Although that said, when I'm in town I tend to use the clutch a little bit more. So it's now in road, which is what I ride my bike in most of the time, even in the rain. You've got rain, dynamic, road and enduro. And most of these bikes now come with a chip that can be, even though it says enduro on the screen, there's a chip that can be fitted after you've bought the bike. They just jam it under the seat in one of the little nooks and crannies there, which you can have fitted. And it basically maps the engine, so if you want to take it off and do full enduro off-road stuff, you can do it. So the different modes, in road mode like this, it's just, I would imagine it's just a standard configuration. In rain mode, the accelerator is not as harsh, and the braking is not as harsh either. If that's probably the wrong term to use for that. It isn't harsh at all. Oh, he's a noisy boy. And then in dynamic, it's like the sport mode. I suppose they didn't want to go call it sport like everyone else does. They just called it dynamic, and it means that the throttle is a little bit twitchier, a little bit more aggressive. I remember when I first rode one of these bikes years ago that had all these different road options, and road, rain, enduro and all the rest of it, dynamic. And I took it back into the showroom and they said, how was it? I said, it was absolutely horrendous. It was set up in dynamic. And they looked at me aghast, they're going, what? I said, it's awful. The accelerator is so aggressive, it's not comfortable to ride. And their answer to that was, okay, if you're worried about that, put it in rain mode and then it'll smooth it all out and it won't be as harsh and as twitchy if you want. My comment then, excuse me, my comment then to them was, well, you want me to spend, these bikes are getting on for 18, 19 grand by the time you put all the bells and whistles on them. You want me to spend all that money on a bike and you want me to ride around it in rain mode in a dry just so it smooths out the suspension, the acceleration and all that kind of stuff. And they were looking at me going, yeah, like, that wasn't an issue. I was going, you're missing the point there, fellas. If I'm spending that much money, if I put it into road mode, I want it to ride like it would, like it's supposed to ride, not be twitchy and aggressive. And if I put it in dynamic, I don't want it to be all over the place either. And then they sort of went, oh yeah. So, but since then, things seem to have changed, and I'm sure I wasn't the only person to pick fault with that little issue. And they seem to have got their heads around it a little bit, and now it's a bit of a dream to ride. I do know a guy who has got this same bike. He must have had it about 6 months now. So his was the 2017 bike, and he had his panniers wrapped in the same configuration as the tank is painted at the moment. I'll show you that when I stop for a chat about it. Excuse me again. And it makes the bike look pretty special, I must admit. This paint scheme is is pretty good. The guy who was sat on this bike before I got on it was quite impressed by the paint scheme of the bike, and he was you know, if that's a selling point, then that's worth marketing, isn't it? Worth pushing. I mean, BMW they've tried a few experiments with their paint colours, their paint schemes. There was a bike in a few months ago in Falmouth who had the urban camouflage paintwork done. The bike had been wrapped, and they hadn't sold. I don't know whether they've sold it, but they hadn't sold it until a few weeks ago, and you know, I don't think they had much interest. But somebody will buy it. But it shows that they're not afraid of stepping out and having something a bit weird. And of course, it's good build quality with BMWs, although people will say, oh, I had a bike that rusted, and I had a bike that did this, and I had a bike that did that. But in general, I've had 5 adventures and they've all been absolutely fantastic. I've had a couple of issues, I can't deny that. These switches here on the left hand side of the handlebars have been problematic, but they knew about that, and they've you know, if you take your bike in and say, oh, I've got a problem with the switches, it's just changed really quickly. So look at this. This could have got down here yesterday in the rain. It was absolutely heaving it down. So, Falmouth, this is Pendennis Castle, Pendennis Point. And this is a good little place to turn the bike around, have a little chat about it. And we'll look at this screen. Now, just out of interest, the sun is in my 2 o'clock position on the bike, and if you're looking at the screen, you can probably see it's really quite difficult to see it. Now, I'm not sure if there's a dimness or, you know, dimming thing you could put on there, change it or not, because I haven't even had time to look at it. But in actual fact, it's still got the plastic cover over the top of it, I've noticed. So I'm just turning the bike round. Okay, I'm going to pull that off. Now there you go then. I have to apologise because I've just realised that there's one of these masking screens on, and even with the sun behind it, right in the screen, that uncovers everything. So that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I found it a bit weird that you would get such a big, a strong reflection from the screen, because I wasn't aware, having looked at it in the showroom, that there was a reflection on it. So that explains everything. I take it all back. There is no reflection. The sun is right behind the screen now, right in front of the screen. It's shining directly on it, and there's no reflection there at all. So I'm going to take that off. If they don't like it, they'll tell me. So look at that. That makes a big difference, doesn't it? I'll put it in there so they can, in the little cubby hole. Okay. Which nobody knows what's supposed to go in there. So, okay, that changes the whole thing, doesn't it? Now we can see what we're looking at. So, menu, and we're going to scroll through the menu now on the dashboard, on the TFT, and hopefully we'll be able to see it. So, it says My Vehicle. Okay. And to try and explain how it works, but basically there's a combination of using this roller wheel that wiggles a little bit and the menu button to get access to everything else on the screen. And you can scroll down through display. Let's see what that gives us. Brightness, it's at 60% at the moment, so we could probably increase that. Let's increase it a little bit, 80%. Okay, and then to get back we'll just go menu, I would imagine. Okay, so that's basically how you can set the bike up. It would take too long to explain it. I haven't got a telephone attached to it. I haven't got the music fitted attached, and I haven't got the GPS. You can attach your GPS with it now. I've got it on My Vehicle, and look at all that comes up. Apparently there's a message there. It tells me I've got 59 miles left in the tank. The oil is okay. The bike pressure, the tyre pressures are 2.6 in the front, 3.1 in the rear. So it's pretty comprehensive what it gives you. Oh, it says there's a service due. Okay, so if we go through there, so that's pretty good, pretty comprehensive, and I'm sure once you've got your music on it, and you can link your GPS up through it as well through Bluetooth. I do believe that now KTM have put a software update out to their bikes, and they can actually link their screen to GPS direct, so you don't have to have your extra GPS on there. So I think it can pick it up off your phone, which is pretty cool. Right, so what has happened basically on these buttons here, if you can see them on the left hand side handlebar, is you used to have two buttons. One said trip and one said info. That's just been replaced by a menu button, and you've got your suspension settings. At the moment it's set for road and the minimum setting, which is fine. On the right hand side you've got modes, or you've got mode switch, you've got an SOS button, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, you have to subscribe to, and if you have a fall you can press the button and it'll send off your position. That must link through your GPS. You've got a mode switch and you've got the heated handlebars. Isn't it lovely that BMW fit heated handlebars as like standard on, I think, pretty much all their bikes, whereas you go to, for example, the Honda Africa Twin, on their standard version, I don't think there's heated bars on that as an extra you have to pay for. It just seems so stupid, you know. Why would you buy a car that hasn't got a heater in it? Why would you buy a bike that hasn't got heated handlebars? And for the cost, it's just bizarre. So the screen is adjustable in the traditional BMW way. I don't have to change anything like that. Just the big triangular shaped knob there. There's a power point just below that. And that's it. The bike is pretty standard. I do like these bikes, and I am grinning like an idiot, but you know, I'm an idiot. So what I'll do now is I'll get off and have a walk around and have a chat about it. I'll just switch it off. Okay, so there it is. 2018 bike fitted with the Panicky 3 tyres. I've had Metzeler Next tyres on my GS's for a long time now, but I was asked if I would try to see if there was another set of tyre I could use, and I've actually gone to Metzeler Roteco 1s, which are absolutely fantastic. The GS always comes with the bars on it, on the engine bars, and the frame for the luggage, which is obviously extra. I think it works out, it might be 1,200 quid, might be more than that now for the BMW luggage, which is Touratech luggage. And there's always a little stamp inside, says Touratech, so you pay quite a lot for that. There are other companies. I would consider Boomot for luggage, probably about half the price and possibly a lot stronger. The bike looks pretty sexy, I must admit. Although I fail to understand why everything is blue and then they put this 1200 colour is in like a grey colour. But the bike's pretty bog standard as it stands. I still like it. I like my bike. It's my own bike. It's a 66 plate bike now, and it's got 19,000 miles on it, so I'm still happy with that, but I'm sure I'll change it soon. The blue frame stands out, and doesn't it, you can see what I'm saying about the paintwork is pretty sexy. Now whether that's just a blue tank that they've stuck those stickers on, I shall have a look. Okay, it's a blue sprayed tank with the stickers on, yeah. And the panniers would be silver. Now the trouble with BMW panniers is they rot. The aluminium just looks atrocious after even just a week or so. So I covered mine with black car wrap, which has made a big difference. You know, they still look, I'm sure the bits that are exposed will look pretty grubby, but at least it cleans up pretty well. And the person I know who's got this exact same bike and has sprayed it, had the GS paint scheme there on the tank put onto his panniers, has done a really good job, and I think there's a local company in Plymouth that fixed that for him. So there's not a lot else to say. Really like the bike, really like the TFT screen. I apologise at the beginning for saying it was rubbish because it was too much reflection, and then like a Gumby I realised that it was the film that had been left on the screen itself. You can see there now that the sun is right behind, shining directly onto the screen. I'm hoping you can see that. And what I'll do is I'll start the bike up. Look at that screen and see if that makes a difference. Okay, as you would imagine, it's shining right on the screen, so that's a bit of an unfair test. But as I come forwards now, looking down, you can see that the screen is very, very good. It's very well lit. It's got this like a sheen on it that, like their GPS, it's easy to see in the sunlight, which unfortunately their Navigator 5 GPS is impossible to see in the sunlight. And the screens, that the little covers that people provide you with, the sunscreens, don't even work. So there we are. So back on the bike, getting back to talk about tyres and things. Somebody in the showroom before I came out was saying about the Anarchy 3 tyres and the amount of road noise you get out of them. And because I've got Rotec 01s on mine, my Metzler's tyres, and I've got used to the sound from them. It's very obvious that there is a lot of road noise from these Anarchy 3s. But I've noticed that BMW are putting Metzler next on a lot of their other bikes, so maybe they just bought a job lot and they're in the process of changing them over as they sell bikes. I'm sure that's how manufacturers do it, you know. Whoever gives them the cheapest deal will win the contract. So as soon as I got rid of those Anarchy 3s, that'd be great. But there's a lot of road noise comes from the bike, and in the front of the bike there's, by the forks, there's obviously a hole there where you can get road noise comes up from. So now look at the screen. Back to this TFT screen. Doesn't it look amazing now? I've taken that film off it. I'm very happy with this, and I have to eat my words saying it was garbage, because it's not. The sun is probably at my 9 o'clock position now, so you would have got reflection on that on a glass covered, a perspex covered Speedo. So if you like this video and you want to subscribe to RiderCamTV, give us a big thumbs up. We're always happy to have things. Subscribers, Toby will put all sorts of bits and pieces all over the screen for you to understand. And this is my ride on the 2018 GS Adventure with a TFT screen, which I liked.